Carol, thanks so much for sticking with me tonight here on TCM.
Thank you, Dave.
Happy Thanksgiving weekend to you.
And you.
It's been so much fun watching these great classic musicals with you and also your takeoff sketches from The Carol Burnett Show. Up next is Three Little Words from 1950, the biopic starring Fred Astaire and Red Skelton.
Yep.
Of basically Burt Kalmar and Harry Ruby's songwriting career. This was one of several biopics about songwriters that came out around the same time, Till the Clouds Roll By or Words and Music. Was this a subgenre of musical that you liked?
Yes, so that's why we wanted to do one about a songwriting team.
Right.
Yeah.
Later on, after we watch the film, we're going to watch your Tin Pan Alley spoof. But it's fun to watch Fred Astaire and Red Skelton together in this. This is a different kind of performance, I feel like, from Fred Astaire. He really gets to show off a little bit more acting
That's
chops
because Red Skelton wasn't Ginger Rogers.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't like it, huh?
Sure. It's a nice little tune. You ought to do something with it sometime. You ought to do something with that shirt, too.
Now, you and Red Skelton both worked early in your careers on the Gary Moore
Back
Show.
in the Covered Wagon days, yes. Red was a guest on the Gary Moore Show. You know, he could paint. He could draw and paint. And I have a caricature that he did of me as a clown. It's just very sweet.
Wow. And then only a few years ago, you received an award from the Red Skelton Museum, an America's Clown Award.
Yeah.
So it's all coming full circle.
And it's funny, I never really liked clowns. They scared me.
They are a little scary.
Yeah.
Why do you think this kind of 1910s time frame worked so well for musicals?
I don't. Well, again, there are no more musicals, and that was the era, and so almost every studio they were into musicals. Even Warner Brothers, which was really known for Jimmy Cagney and Humphrey Bogart and so forth. But even they jumped into musicals.
So this film that we're about to watch has a terrific cast, not only Red Skelton and Fred Astaire, but also Vera Ellen and Arlene Dahl. But we have to pay special mention to
Debbie Reynolds.
Debbie Reynolds. This is very early on for her, and we get to hear her perform I Want to Be Loved by You, but it's dubbed by Helen King.
Yeah.
The boop, boop, doo.
But she looks so cute doing it.
She really does.
Yeah.
Since we're about to watch a movie based on the lives of two songwriters, I'd love to hear a little bit more about the people that wrote the songs for these original sketches on the Carol Burnett Show. It was your regular writers, or did you
regular
bring in
writers? Billy Angelus and Buzz Cohan, and Ken and Mitzi Welch, Artie Malvin, and they were just our regular group. And
How did they also have such musical skill, though, in addition
well,
to
they were all musicians. Mitzi Welch had started out as a singer. She was with the Glenn Miller Band at one point. So she and Kenny married, and Kenny actually was a special material on the Gary Moore Show, and he wrote with Mike Nichols the first Julie and Carol at Carnegie Hall.
Wow.
And then he and Mitzi got married, and she was a terrific writer, and I was so fortunate. But every one of the team, they were just great.
When you think back to making these musical sketches, I know you only had days to learn them, but what about the songwriters? Did they know just a couple days before what kind of songs they were going to have to write, or did they have a couple weeks' notice?
Well, they would have a notice that we were going. I would like to do a takeoff on the Dolly Sisters. So they would start thinking about that and see, and then they would watch the movie or whatever. And but they were fast. Well, like I said, Mitzi wrote that one song the night before I had to record it for the Dolly Sisters.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
Well, the lives of these two writers are definitely interesting. This movie plays a little fast and loose with the facts, but it's still quite entertaining. So let's take a look at it. Here it is from 1950, Fred Astaire and Red Skelton in Three Little Words. Well, Carol, as I said before the film, I love Three Little Words. I think it's just very well done. And you guys spoofed it to perfection, only on season 2 of the show, right?
That's right. It was very early.
Well, here it is from 1968, The Tin Pan Alley Story. Carol, that is really one of the best takeoff sketches that you all did. You are all just at the top of your game. There's so much to talk about. I just love everything, the character names, Pots and Pans. I mean, you must have been delighted when your writers came up with that.
Melvin and Phoebe, yeah.
Right? It's so brilliant. It's so fun to see you all spoofing the Tin Pan Alley genre. And of course, Tin Pan Alley was that area of Manhattan in the early 20th century.
Or they would come in and try to sell a song.
Right. What was it like for you to have Nanette Fabray around?
Well, she was a guest quite often, and always a lot of fun. I love Nanny, yeah. She was so wonderful in this as kind of the evil other woman.
And I noticed when she kind of has that showgirl outfit on, it reminded me very much of what Bob Mackie designed for Mitzi Gaynor.
Yeah.
You know, those great kind of showgirl outfits.
That's one of the reasons we discovered Bob, was when I'd seen Mitzi Gaynor show and saw all the costumes he had put her in, but not only the pretty ones, but the funny ones too. And we said, "Who is that designer?" Bob Mackie.
Mel Torme is terrific in this.
Mel, yeah.
And he gets to wear a terrific green double-breasted suit.
And Rickles at the beginning, when Pots and Pans kind of start working together, and Rickles starts doing his own bit, he totally improvised that. And that was Don. It cracked me up when he was doing that.
And I have to imagine that bit with Don where he's having trouble putting the phone. That was all improvised.
Oh, yeah, it was an accident.
But
Again, you don't stop. You keep going.
And you must have loved that.
I did.
Because so much of what we all remember about the Carol Burnett show are the moments where you all are cracking each other up.
You know, it wasn't that often. Out of 200 and some odd shows, I maybe 20 times. And mostly it was when Tim was trying to get Harvey. But people remember it because it was so delicious.
Right.
But it was never on purpose.
Of course not. When you think back to the guest stars here, Don Rickles and Mel Torme and Nanette Fabray, you know, it allowed them to show off different talents that they had, but maybe to do something a little bit different from what they
Mel especially, see, Nanette had an opportunity to be funny when she worked with Sid Caesar. And also she sang up a storm and could move, and she was beautiful. And so it wasn't a stretch for her. And Mel used to love to come to our show because usually if he'd been on a variety show, he'd do a number and maybe something in a finale. But to have a whole role to create, and he loved it, you know. And
one thing I also found interesting about this one, considering that it's from earlier in the run of the show, this sketch used more close-ups and less of the kind of full stage. I wasn't sure if that was something that evolved as the time went on.
That was the director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it takes you up close to the action in certain scenes, which I thought was really interesting. You guys had so much fun with this, and we all got to
And Mel,
enjoy
of course, was actually playing the piano.
You can tell.
You know.
I'm a piano player myself, so I'm always looking very closely at people's hands when they're playing the piano, and I could tell that Mel was a real player.
No,
That's fun to watch. All right, Carol, we have one more movie to discuss. Will you stick around?
I'm not going anywhere.
You have no choice. Okay, good. Stay with us because coming up next, Carol and I will be back to introduce a classic musical from 1933.
Next on TCM, 42nd Street, then Gold Diggers of 1933, and later, $1 Million Mermaid. TCM's Fishing for Compliments tonight.